There it is. Yeah, we got it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Assembly Education Committee of March 21st. We will start as a subcommittee because we do not yet have a full quorum. So I will call the Assembly Education hearing to order as a subcommittee. We'll hold off on the roll for now until such time as a quorum has been established. We have 22 bills on file today and 7 are on consent. The consent items are as follows. Item number 4, AB 1962, Mr. Wood. Item number 6, AB 2009, Mr. Mainshine. Item number 7, AB 2031, O'Donnell. Item number 11, AB 2228, Mr. Wood. Item number 13, AB 2285, O'Donnell. Item number 14, AB 2301, Ms. Burke. Item number 22, AB 3043, Mr. Berman. That leaves 15 bills to be heard, so we have a long day today. We will take testimony from 2 witnesses in support and 2 witnesses in opposition to each measure. So it's 2 witnesses, 2 minutes each witness, 2 and 2. Remember that, please. Each witness, again, will have 2 minutes. There will be 2 witnesses. All others in support or opposition are welcome to come up to the microphone and give their name, their affiliation, and their position on the bill only. So if you come up to the mic after the witnesses have spoken, it is not a time for further diatribe other than whether or not you support the bill. With that, we are ready for our first author. Mr. Rodriguez, I believe, is present. You may come forward. We will hear from item number 2, AB 1747 by Mr. Rodriguez. Again, that's item number 2. You may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I want to begin by accepting the amendments as proposed in the committee analysis. The California Constitution guarantees children the right to attend public schools which are safe, secure, and peaceful. Last year, I asked for a state audit of school safety plans, and surprisingly, it was revealed that we are falling short of keeping our students safe. The audit found that many school districts do not have procedures for responding to violent incidents such as active shooters because it is not required by law. AB 1747 codifies the auditor's recommendations and will require schools to create procedures to respond to violent incidents. Mental health professionals and law enforcement would be required to consult in the planning and evaluation process. Additionally, this bill would direct the Department of Education to provide guidance on best practices for safety plans and ensure plans are regularly updated. Nobody wants to think of a world where our children are not safe at school, but unfortunately, recent incidents in Parkland, Marshall County, Kentucky, and Rancho Tehama have shown us that we must be prepared for the worst. With me today is Superintendent of the Corning Union Elementary School District, Rich Fitzpatrick, to talk about the response to the violent incidents that occurred in Rancho Tehama Elementary School last year.
Thank you. 2 minutes, please. You may proceed.
My name is Richard Fitzpatrick. I'm the superintendent for Corning Elementary School District in Tehama County, and I'm glad to be here today. It's an urgent matter. On November 14th, just a little over 4 months ago, at 7:56 in the morning, a shooter came on the campus of Rancho Tehama Elementary School, intending to kill as many students as possible. Our school secretary heard a gunshot about 500 yards up the road, and by her own decision, called a lockdown. 45 seconds later, our entire campus was locked down, doors locked, students in the classrooms. 10 seconds later, a shooter armed with high-cap magazines and an AR rifle came into our quad and fired over 100 rounds into our classrooms, offices, and windows. We had 1 student injury. It was a kindergartner who was laying on the floor in the back of the classroom hiding under a desk. We had no fatalities and no other wounded students. The reason that it happened is because our district and our school at that site had prepared for lockdown procedures. They were a regular part of what we did, and they performed them completely and perfectly, admirably. And as a result, we didn't have a body count. Are there wounds to the school staff? Yes. Are there wounds to our students? Yes. They have to walk through the days knowing that things are different and the normal that they knew may never come back, but they're alive to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I just want to acknowledge that Your district did a wonderful job in supporting the students in the community through that very tragic and scary event.
Thank you.
Any further witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair and members, Madison Dwelly on behalf of the American Red Cross in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Danielle Kando Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in support.
Brandon Marchi with the California Medical Association, also in support.
Any opposition? Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing no witnesses in opposition, you may close.
In closing, members, it is our responsibility to provide a safe environment for our children and staff at our schools. I respectfully ask for I vote.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. And we will hold off on a motion because we do not at this time have a quorum. I just want to acknowledge your work on this. It's very important. In my own school district, I know we'd been through those drills, but there's nothing wrong with creating a statewide protocol and expectation that every school is well versed in lockdowns should incidents like this occur near them. I've been through many a lockdown and many a practice of a lockdown, but again, ensuring that all schools across California do it is important. So thank you. Is there any comments from any other committee? So with that, we'll hold off till we do have a quorum for our motion, and thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
And you have, in addition, you have, let's see, AB, file item number 3, AB 1861. You may proceed when ready.
Mr. Chair and members, AB 1861 will require schools to provide education to students on how social media and mobile phone devices are used to groom and lure youth into human trafficking. Unfortunately, an estimated 300 children are affected for commercial sex and forced labor every year. Traffickers are quickly adapting to new age media. Social media outlets like Facebook, Instagram allow traffickers to contact kids who they feel are most vulnerable. Mobile phone device applications such as Snapchat allow traffickers to leave no trace. Chat histories are automatically deleted when one logs out, deletes the app, or the account is deactivated. For these reasons and many more, preventative measures must be taken, and it starts with educating our children. Last year, legislation required human trafficking prevention education to be provided to students in grades 7 through 12. This bill simply clarifies the use of social media and mobile phone applications to be included in education provided to the students. Today, I'm joined by the advocate from Family Assist Open Door Program, who works with survivors every day, and a corporal from the City of Ontario Police Department who works with the San Bernardino Human Trafficking Task Force, testifying in support.
Your witness may proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you for having me today. My name is Emily Dixon, and I am a survivor advocate for victims of human trafficking in San Bernardino County. Today, I'm here on behalf of Open Door Program, a nonprofit organization that helps survivors of human trafficking. We are in support of Assembly Bill 1861 due to the fact that within the last 3 years, we have had clients come through our program who were recruited online. Our clients disclose that social media sites have played a major role in the grooming and recruitment of victims. We learned that some victims were befriended by traffickers who at first posed as a friend who was attracted to the victim and wanted to build some kind of romantic relationship with them. The traffickers would have intimate conversations with their victims to find out all vulnerabilities, dislikes, and wants in order to prey on them. At the victim's weakest moment, the trafficker would pounce at the opportunity to present themselves as a savior and/or a rescuer, only to suck them into a lifestyle of exploitation and means of survival. In addition to online recruitment by traffickers themselves, we have also worked with victims who were recruited online by other human trafficking victims who are also known as the bottom. The bottom will befriend the trafficker's next potential victim and flash pictures of money, materialistic items such as high-end purses, cars, clothing, etc. Once the victim shows interest, the bottom will continue to initiate conversations with the victim to glamorize and glorify the life and make promises to the victim that he or she will be able to have those same items. In the victim's weakest moment, the trafficker will have his or her bottom jump on the opportunity to act as a savior or rescuer to the victim and then introduce them to a life of human sex trafficking and exploitation. For these reasons, we ask that AB 1861 get passed. Educating youth on the dangers of social media and mobile phone devices is vital when teaching about human trafficking preventative measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Under 2 minutes. Well done. Your next witness?
Mr. Chair and members, thank you for having me today. My name is Nick Leffler. I'm a corporal with the City of Ontario Police Department. I'm here today representing the San Bernardino County Human Trafficking Task Force. Largely, our society is unaware of human trafficking and the subculture of commercialized sex for sale that is present in communities across our state. Since May 2017, our task force has rescued 49 adults and 25 juveniles during human trafficking investigations. We have found juvenile victims 13 years of age and younger. During these investigations, we have found that the primary recruiting ground for juveniles is on the internet through social media. Social media provides a platform for traffickers to befriend minors, initiate secret relationships with them, engage in private conversations, and eventually begin to manipulate them into working for them as commercial sex workers. I wanted to take this opportunity to provide 2 examples to put into context what I'm talking about. After working human trafficking investigations for just a short time, it was evident to me that traffickers were recruiting their victims through social media. To combat this type of crime and proactively seek out the traffickers, I decided to create a social media account posing as a 15-year-old female girl. During the first full day of maintaining this account, I had received numerous friend requests and over 50 messages from traffickers who were attempting to begin relationships with this fictitious child. I have since arrested several of those predators for human trafficking based on their conversations with me in that undercover role. Another example of the connection between social media and human trafficking is this. In 2017, the San Bernardino Task Force began an investigation which led to the arrest of a suspected pimp in the City of Ontario. During the investigation, we learned that the suspected pimp had used social media to attempt to befriend and recruit at least 5 random females per day. It is important that we educate our children about human trafficking and the hidden dangers that exist in the realm of social media so they can guard themselves against becoming the next victim. The San Bernardino County Human Trafficking Task Force is in support of AB 1861. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association in support.
Desiree Gomez on behalf of the Open Door program in the City of San Bernardino in full support.
Danielle Kando Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in strong support. We've awarded this bill our star rating.
Thank you.
Ray Burnell with the Catholic Church of California. We're in strong support.
Bless you.
Mr. Chair and members, Isabel Garcia with the California Teachers Association. We're proud to recommend a formal support at our April State Council of Education meeting.
Thank you.
Kathy Hall, the California State Parent Teachers Association in support.
Thank you. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, we cannot do a motion at this time. You may close.
With that, Chair, I respectfully ask for our vote on this very important measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have is Mr. Santiago present. Where? I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Get off your social media and get up here. Just kidding. Okay, so we're on file item number 21, which is AB 3042.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be okay with the Chair if I was brief?
Absolutely.
Thank you. First, I'd like to accept the committee amendments as amended. AB 3042 would provide school districts the opportunity to combine 2 President Day holidays into one and designate May 1st as a holiday known as the International Workers' Day. 2 witnesses will also be brief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Ron Rapp on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers. We're proud sponsors of this bill. We respectfully request an aye vote on it. I'm going to yield my time to our main witness, Fred Glass. Fred is the author of Mission to Microchip, History of the California Labor Movement, and he's also an adjunct professor at City College of San Francisco. He teaches labor history.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Assembly Education Committee. As Mr. Rapp said, my name is Fred Glass. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words about the importance of May 1st as a workers' holiday and why we should adopt it in California. The holiday should be understood as belonging to every worker everywhere. It celebrates the birth of the movement for the 8-hour workday, a seemingly impossible goal at a time in the 19th century when 10 and even 12-hour days were common, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week. It would right an historic injustice for the holiday to finally be celebrated officially somewhere in the United States. That's because this country is where the events occurred, strikes and demonstrations by a largely immigrant workforce in the 1880s that began the movement for the 8-hour day, which was only crowned with success 50 years later with the passage of the Fair Labor Standards Act. Helping students understand where their basic workplace rights come from is crucial to protecting them today and in the future. These rights were hard-won, often at the cost of workers' jobs, blood, and lives. It's not a coincidence that the National Labor Relations Act, providing peaceful conflict resolution in the workplace through collective bargaining, was passed in 1935, a year after a wave of general strikes witnessed injuries to hundreds and, in some places, thousands of workers and the deaths of dozens. A May Day holiday and appropriate labor history educational exercises surrounding it would provide students, many of whom already work, with an appreciation for what it took to create workplace rights and what they stand to lose if those rights are eliminated. In short, the merits of the holiday fit closely with what California stands for today as an island of sanity under the current federal political and policy environment. I respectfully urge you to support AB 3042.
Great, thank you. Others in support?
Good afternoon. My name is C.T. Weber. I am the Peace and Freedom Party of California Legislative Committee Chair. We're here in support of the bill. It's been within our platform for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others in support? Just state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only, please.
My name is John Rieger. I'm the Secretary of the Peace and Freedom Party State Central Committee and urging you to support this important bill.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Derek Lennox on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District in support.
Thank you. Any others in support? Seeing no others in support. Any in opposition? You may close. I just want to clarify that we are talking about the, oh, you do have a, okay. So I want to clarify, we are talking about the amended version, which is permissive in that districts can choose the current model, which is 2 president holidays, or if they so choose, they may move to the suggested model, the one that has been presented here today. Again, this bill is now being amended to be permissive. With that, Mr. Kiley.
And I do think those are good amendments and applaud the committee for suggesting them and the author for taking them. I'm still curious. I mean, we already have a Labor Day holiday, right? So why do we need to kind of nudge aside President Lincoln or President Washington in order to create this other international workers' holiday?
I'm glad you asked, and I knew you would.
Am I that predictable?
Yes. Labor Day celebrates the social and economic achievement of American workers. The International Workers' Day speaks for itself. It's about all workers across the world.
Go workers. All right. Did you wish to close?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Okay, thank you. And we will not make a motion at this time because we do not have a quorum, but we will move it as amended when we do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to, is Mr. Medina present? There he is. It's item number 18, which is AB 2772. And you may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Today I present Assembly Bill 2772, a bill that will add a course of ethnic studies to be a high school graduation requirement beginning the school year 2023-2024. And before going on any further, I want to say that I accept the amendments. And to the chair and the staff, I want to thank you for all your hard work. And thank you, and again, accepting the amendments that are suggested in the analysis. On Monday of this week, we recognized students who 50 years ago walked out of East LA high schools with certain demands. demands that their teachers look like them, that they have counselors who look like them, that there would be curriculum in the books, in the textbooks, that reflected their history, their culture. And I'm referring to the East LA student walkouts of 1968. As a longtime high school teacher of social studies, teaching U.S. history and world history, having taught American government and economics, and also being a K-12 elementary school teacher, there is a huge gap in the curriculum today on what students are taught. And if we look into our U.S. history books, the U.S. history book that is taught in junior year history, you will not see a whole lot on Latino culture or history. You will not see a whole lot on African American culture and history. You will not see a lot on Asian American or Native American history. I had an opportunity at Riverside Unified to teach ethnic studies and Chicano studies for several years. And I found that the students that I taught in both of those classes, ethnic studies and Chicano studies, very much valued what they learned in my classroom. So much so that when they see me today, they make it a point to go out of their way to thank me for what they learned in their classroom, in those classes. So I very much, in presenting this bill, think it's past time that we include the history, the culture, the literature of all ethnic groups to our high school students. And so that is why I'm building upon the work of Mr. Alejo and the bill that he got passed and signed by the governor, and preparing the curriculum now by the Department of Education to make it so that every high school graduate in the state of California would have to take a class, semester class, in ethnic studies for graduation. As I look back and think of what does it mean to be educated in this state and in this nation, I don't think that you can claim to be an educated person in our society today if you do not know the history, the culture of all groups of which are represented in this state and in this nation. So with that, I'm very proud to bring this bill forward and ask for your aye vote. With me here today on behalf of AB 2772 is Dr. Dale Allender, Professor of Education at Sacramento State University, and Margarita Berta Avila, who will speak on behalf of this bill.
Thank you. You may proceed when ready.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to the members of the Assembly Education Committee. My name is Dr. Margarita Berta Avila. I am here on behalf of Ethnic Studies Now Statewide Coalition, as well as Ethnic Studies Now Sacramento. I'm also a professor of education at Sacramento State University. I prepare students who want to enter the field as future high school teachers, specifically in ethnic studies. I am here today to speak on behalf of AB 2772. And as shared by Assemblymember Medina, it's been 15 years since 1968, and currently we are still working and organizing, and local school board members in cities throughout California are passing resolutions requiring ethnic studies classes at the urgency of its most important constituents, students, parents, and teachers. Elk Grove just last night held a board meeting in which many students, teachers, and community members put forth their request to have ethnic studies at Elk Grove Unified because of the circumstances that have been plaguing Elk Grove. In addition, we have the passing, as mentioned, of AB 2016, which is the development of ethnic studies model curriculum. So AB 2772 comes at an opportune time when growing research demonstrates a powerful relationship between ethnic studies curriculum and academic achievement. Moreover, it affirms what we know for decades: curriculum and instruction in classroom, which engages students and students of color specifically with, as what Lisa Delpit said, their intellectual legacy, clarifying their position in a racialized society, ritually expresses expectations for hard work and academic, social, physical, and moral excellence, has one for community, for one's ancestors, and for one's descendants, materialize astute individuals consciously, politically, and academically. More specifically, as Christine Sleeter's review of literature states or shares regarding ethnic studies, it offers students the opportunity to...
Please summarize.
Okay, thank you. It offers offers students the opportunity to engage with community, creative, intellectual products, both historically and contemporary. Lastly, I would like to
Quickly,
say...
Quickly, you just summarize, please.
Thank you. In light of the movement occurring across the state, in moving ethnic studies forward in high schools and what the research states, the time has come for the latter to be affirmed and sanctioned.
Thank you. Good job. Next, please.
Thank you, Assembly members. My name is Dr. Dale Allender, as stated at Sacramento State University in the College of Education, here to speak on behalf of this bill. Also representing Ethnic Studies Now Sacramento, I have a unique role in that organization in that I primarily work on the development of curriculum and professional development for teachers in this city, in this region, and also throughout the state. One of the things that I can share with you is that in developing the first Ethnic Studies high school textbook, we've gone back to about 120 ninth graders to look at that book and talk to us about improvements for future editions of it. We asked them what they like, what they don't like, and what they would change. And the thing that they say that they like, almost across the board, all 120 of them said they really like the opportunity to learn about themselves and to learn about others in their community, and that the materials in the course help them do that. I want to just reiterate the importance that the research states that there is academic and social value in ethnic studies courses, and that academic value is described as increased grades, increased test scores, increased graduation rates, decreased truancy, and decreased dropout rate. And those studies are both qualitative and quantitative. So it's very important that we take note of that. Last thing I want to say is that it's
Please
very...
summarize.
Yes, sir. That it's very important that the research also, that we highlight in the research also the very specific approaches that will yield those activities and the professional development present.
Thank you.
Sir.
Witnesses in support. Your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only, please.
Dr. Robin Magalit Rodriguez, Professor of Ethnic Studies, specifically Asian American Studies at the University of California, Davis, and National Board Member for the Association for Asian American Studies, in full support.
Tari Aguilera, State President of Café de California Chicano Latino Association and Board Member, UC Davis Alumni Association, in support.
Tony Perez, representing myself as a member of the Elk Grove Unified School District, 5th largest school district in California, in support.
Carlos Alcalá, Chair of the Chicano Latino Caucus of the California Democratic Party, recommends support.
Norma Alcala, I'm President for Washington Unified School District in West Sacramento, in support, and we also passed a resolution unanimously.
Thank you.
Aurora Latorre, high school student, and I support this bill.
Danielle Kando-Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action, in support.
Eric Harris, California State NAACP, in support.
Derek Lennox on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District, in support.
Frederick Romero, U.S. Marine, Chicano Vietnam veteran, State Commander of the American GI Forum, in strong support of this bill.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz, representing the California Association for Bilingual Education and Californians Together, and we support this bill, and our letter of support is forthcoming. Thank you.
Tony Tinker, Black Parallel School Board, and Center for African Peace and Conflict Resolution, and we are in support of this bill.
Isabel Garcia, California Teachers Association. We do not have a formal position, but we want to thank the author for this important bill, and we're going to be discussing the graduation requirement at our State Council of Education meeting. So we'd like the bill to keep moving forward.
Bobby Roy, National Trustee for the Philippine American National Historical Society, in support.
Marlena Mercado, a Cultural Studies PhD student at UC Davis, and in full support.
Fred Jones on behalf of the California Council for the Social Studies. Just wanted to thank the chairman and the author for working out the amendments to protect some of the elective history, social science courses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in support? Seeing no others in support, any in opposition? Seeing no opposition, any questions from the committee? I'll just say this includes the Irish, right?
It does.
And the San Patricios, you know who they are,
Patricio
right?
Brigade.
Right? All right, good. Mr. Kiley had that same question, I think, actually. Mr. Kiley, any questions? No? No. All right. All right, great. With that, you may close, please.
I didn't say in my opening, and I do want to say in the close, that it was great what we did on the floor of the Assembly on Monday to recognize those students. But if we don't give high school students the same opportunity to learn about their past, our past, we haven't done our job. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, there will be no motion as of until we get a quorum. But thank you. With that, Mr. Voepel is here, I believe. That's item number 19. You may proceed.
That's good. Mr. Chairman, my committee sisters and brothers, got something a little bit different here for you. Today I present AB 2858, that is an Assembly District 71 specific bill asking that the Cajon Valley Union School District, Grossmont Union School District, and Santee School District to honor the differentiation of ethnicity and to create a category for Assyrian and Chaldean students on pupils' registration paperwork. Currently, Assyrians and Chaldeans are identified as Middle Eastern under ethnic demographics on paperwork, when in fact they are Mesopotamian. Interesting that Assembly District 71 is home to the second largest Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac communities in the United States after Michigan. 20% of Syrian refugees come to District 71. There's approximately 60,000 Chaldean Assyrians. Syriac community, we don't have an exact count, but I anticipate that number to rival or surpass the current Mesopotamian population. So this is a new ethnic group that is, like many ethnic groups, trying to be recognized. Interesting to me, sometime in hopefully the distant future, you will have an assembly member of Chaldean, Assyrian, or Syrian descent before you, representing 71st District. No doubt in my mind. Once again, I hope it's in the far future, at least 12 years from now. With the wars in Syria, many Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac refugees have found a home in my district. Strangely enough, whether they're Christian or Muslim, they get along greatly. Very few incidents or items of friction. They're so glad to be in America and to have a chance to become Americans let me tell you, they'll out-citizen you. I believe that AB 2858 seeks to promote diversity and guides my school districts in the right direction to serve as good examples to others throughout the state. Department of Education of California determines the ethnic categories. With this said, I have El Cajon City Council member Ben Kalasho to speak with the chair's permission.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you to the California State Assembly. My name is Ben Kalasho, councilman for the city of El Cajon in the county of San Diego. I'm here today not only in my official capacity, but also on a personal level, and as this bill immensely affects my life and many, many others within the district, statewide and also nationally. And when I contacted Assemblyman Randy Voepel's office last year regarding this bill, he immediately knew and understood the importance that this bill would have on my community. Assembly Bill 2858 will help my community, those who originated from Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, and more modernly known by their subpopulation names Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac, to be a protected minority class. Now, what does it mean to be a protected minority class within the context that I'm presenting here today? Simply put, in academia, Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac students would then be able to check off the appropriate box of their origin. Now, this has a multitude of benefits for my community because not only will we be able to track how well we are doing in school, but we'll be able to decipher which subjects we're attracted to. And moreover, we're going to be able to decipher where in the community and in the state our subpopulation resides with respect to the census. Now, I'm here today speaking on behalf of 200,000 of my community members who reside in the state of California. And I'm speaking for hundreds of thousands of others within the country who are looking at this day and looking at me to adopt similar resolutions in their states. And more importantly, as you know, my people live in the diaspora. Because of the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS, they're displaced. But they want to know that if they come here, that they're accounted for. Not like what happened under ISIS. They want to know that they are recognized and not omitted. And so I'm here today to represent those people, those voiceless people. I did bring a little prop, but Assemblyman Randy Voepel told me that we don't do that, but I want to just read it off to you quickly.
You're at your time limit now, so just very briefly if you want.
Sure, and I thank you so much. What we're asking for eventually is a category to say Mesopotamian, Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac, because that's who we identify with. And I thank you again for your time, Chair, and members of the State Assembly. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilman. I just want to clarify something. I think you stated that this would make create a protected class. That's not what this bill would do. This bill would just require the district to count them, which the district could do today, if it so desired.
Eventually is what I would.
So with that, do we have others in support? Just come up, state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Montash, president of the Assyrian American Association of Southern California. We're in support of this bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Martin Umar, and I'm the president of the Assyrian American National Federation. I came all the way from Chicago in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Baba, representing Sacramento Assyrian Club, and in support of this bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Davudian. Today is my last day in medical school, so tomorrow would have been Dr. Andrew Davudian. I was a course lecturer at UC Berkeley.
Just state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only, sir.
I want to support it, and we did a similar thing with the University of California system with an Assyrian California checkbox 5 years ago.
Thank you. Great. Any others in support? Seeing no others, any opposition to the bill? Okay, we'll bring it back. And again, Mr. Voepel, I appreciate, I'm not opposed to your goal, but your goal could be achieved today. The district could provide this data publicly today. So I really don't understand what creating a state mandate, which the state would have to pay for the district to conduct that study. I don't know why we're heading down that path. And again, they could start this tomorrow if they don't already do it. And I would, so I almost wonder if you should be talking to the school board rather than the state education committee, because again, they could do this today. I don't know that it's necessary to create a statewide mandate, and it does not create a protected class. So that's where we're struggling. That's why you see that in the analysis, and then we've had discussions about that. But Mr. Kelly, did you wish to comment? No. Oh. With that, thank you. You may close.
Yes, sir. Once again, I understand the concerns of the committee chair. Because the questionnaires are designed by the Department of Education of California, it was thought by my constituents that that's where it needed to go. So that's the ruling there. As far as protected class and that's a battle for them to wage at some future time. I respectfully ask for a yes vote, and hopefully this can make it to the floor. Thank you, sir.
Again, I just want to reiterate, it can be done locally now, and in fact, some districts already do this. They can create their own form. Don't need a state law, don't need a governor, don't need you and I. But again, I thank you for representing your community well today, and thank you, Councilman, for presenting today. So with that, we're not going to make a motion because we don't have a quorum yet, and again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Our next is Mr. Voepel. Thank you. Mr. Gallagher. Is Mr. Gallagher present? There he is. And Mr. Gallagher will present AB 2067. It's item number 8, file item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I very much appreciate your time this morning. AB 2067 is my bill dealing with school safety and having armed security at our schools. And I first want to thank the chair and the committee staff for working with my office on this. We are prepared to take the amendment suggested regarding removing private school security guards and also including charter schools in this mandate. So we would take those two amendments. This issue really obviously came very close to home for us in my district, as you heard a little bit earlier today in the committee. The small school of Rancho Tehama in my district, just west of the community of Corning in Tehama County, had a very tragic attack. A madman went on a rampage through this community, ultimately going onto the school grounds at Rancho Tehama Elementary. At the end of the day, 5 people were killed. A community was completely devastated, and a school and children were locked in their classrooms, being shot at from outside of the classroom by this gunman. In talking with the staff and teachers afterwards, you can't imagine, obviously, the horror that they went through as this was transpiring. But also the great courage that we saw out of these staff members and teachers who were able to lock down the classroom. They had training, as Mr. Rodriguez's bill is proposing to do, and they acted very quickly, and they saved lives that day because of what they did. We also did have a community member who distracted the gunman as he was shooting into classrooms and ultimately got him to come out of the school grounds. And so there was a lot of heroism that happened there that helped save lives that day. But as we consider the things that we need to do in the aftermath of these school shootings, there's multiple prongs here. We know there's multiple things we need to do to stop this. But the sad reality is that we are seeing these horrendous attacks go to our most vulnerable, our kids, our most precious commodity in this state, are vulnerable to these attacks. And so, as I was thinking about how we can do better, I was considering the school resource officer program that we have at many schools that has been very successful. And why not have these individuals at every school in the state to ensure that there is going to be someone there who would be able to stop these attacks when they happen, that we wouldn't just have to hole up in our classrooms and hope that something more dire doesn't happen. All those things need to be done. We need to have training, but we need to have people who can be a first line of defense. I think the merits of this policy, really were shown yesterday in Maryland, where we had an SRO who acted literally in seconds, under a minute, when the shooting began at a school there in Maryland, and was able to dispatch and stop the shooter from carrying out from shooting more students on that campus. There still was tragically 2 people shot, but clearly everybody that has reported on this has said this helped stop and help prevent more loss of life. We've also seen this actually, that SROs down in actually Southern California, that a security guard who overheard a conversation ultimately was able to go search a student's home, and when they found weapons and were able to, what they believe, prevent what could have been an attack as well. So this is a good program that works, the SRO op programs, and what we're asking for in this bill is that there would be an SRO, a trained peace officer on every campus. This would be a reimbursable mandate for our schools, and it would apply across the board with the amendments to charter schools as well. And so would ask for your consideration of this measure. I think it's a much needed defense. Yeah, there's going to be a cost to that. We'll obviously have to deal with that in Appropriations Committee. But for me, I don't think you can put a price on peace of mind when it comes to our kids. And so I'd ask for your aye vote on this measure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your consideration, and members.
Great, thank you.
I do have some witnesses with me in support.
Your witnesses in support. 2 minutes each, please. You may proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Villalobos, Twin Rivers Charter School, formerly East Nicholas High School District, and I'm in support of SRO. As I've talked to Assemblymember Gallagher, it's as preventative as it is the incident. We know that effective SROs build relationships with students. We know students are most likely going to be the perpetrators, and if we can be preventative and have that relationship on campus, it's going to save lives as well.
My name is Dan Ramos, and I've worked as the principal at Las Plumas High School in Oroville for 9 years. I also have 17 years experience as an emergency medical technician and a volunteer fire captain with Butte County Fire, where I've received advanced training in active shooter trauma response. In September 2007, I was the administrator in charge at the time when an armed student, Greg Wright, took nearly 30 hostages in our band room. A standoff ensued and the gunman fired 2 shots, however, no one was injured. We did not have a school resource officer on campus that day. I'm in support of AB 2067, and as I recall the lonely and terrifying feeling that takes hold when we waited for about 7 minutes for law enforcement to arrive and take charge of the situation. In that amount of time, we could have easily been at the top of the list of deadly school incidents in the nation. We were just lucky. I also know that immediate armed opposition is the most effective way to stop an active shooter. Along with my support, I urge this body to ensure that the schools are fully funded to support the placement of armed law enforcement officers in rural schools. Attention must be paid to how funding will get to school districts, as the mandated cost reimbursement program has not been a reliable or timely source of funding for schools. Currently, the mandated cost funds that our district receives would barely support the $140,000 a year price tag of one deputy that rotates between 4 schools, without allowing a single dollar to fund other state-mandated activities. It's imperative that you take school safety seriously and target funding that is fully and specifically supporting armed law enforcement officers in schools. Additionally, I feel that sworn law enforcement officers are the most effective form of security in schools. They have the training, equipment, and direct access to other agencies that is needed to respond to major violent incidents.
Great, thank you. Other witnesses in support, you may come up to the microphone, state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only.
Chris Lockhart, Armed Guard Security Training Academy, in full support.
Derek Azevedo, Armed Guard Private Protection, in full support.
Mr. Chair, Francisco Reveles, Dr. Reveles, Yuba County Superintendent of Schools, in strong support.
Lieutenant Steve Boyd from the Butte County Sheriff's Office on behalf of Sheriff Corey Honey, in full support.
Charles Tracy, former police officer, hostage negotiator for Lyndhurst High School 1992, and Superintendent of Hamilton Unified, in full support.
Thank you. Any opposition?
Good afternoon. Kathy Scherr for the ACLU of California. We respectfully must oppose AB 2067. We all agree that school safety is absolutely essential. Children should be able to focus on learning without worrying about their personal safety. Parents should feel that school is a place where their children will be protected from harm. The mission of educating our children has to start with providing a safe place to learn. We disagree as to how to make sure our schools are safe. Putting a guard or officer in every school, as AB 2067 proposes to do, is not the answer. Putting guns in schools in the hands of security guards or school resource officers or anyone else will make schools less safe, not more so. We saw this with the incident in Monterey last week, where 3 students were injured by a teacher who was also a reserve police officer accidentally discharging a gun in class. But the problem with placing a security guard or resource officer at every school extends far beyond the risk of the use of that person's gun. For many students, the presence of an armed officer makes school feel more like a detention center than a school, a place where they are seen as suspects. Sadly, all too often that feeling is reinforced when officers on campus are brought into what should be routine school disciplinary matters, only to escalate the incident to the point, sometimes, of using excessive force against students. We've all seen the videos in California and elsewhere of students pushed or thrown to the ground by officers in their schools, sometimes for offenses as minor as failing to put away a cell phone. For these students and many others, the presence of a school resource officer feels like a threat, not a source of protection. We need to be looking for ways to reduce the presence of police in our schools, not to increase it. We know how to keep our schools safe. We need to make our schools into welcoming and inclusive places that support the social and emotional health of the students and that have the resources they need to build community and address conflict with non-punitive methods. Let's focus on providing schools with those resources rather than investing in expensive measures that will just make things worse. We ask for your no vote.
Thank you. Others in opposition?
Tony Triguero, on behalf of the California Teachers Association, we have a recommended opposed position on this bill.
Sarah Botches, the California Association of School Business Officials, in opposition.
Ron Rapp, on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers, we're also taking an opposed recommendation to our convention.
Kai Jackson with San Diego Unified School District, in opposition.
Sarah Hutchinson with Act for Women and Girls in Visalia, and we oppose this bill.
Amy Blumberg on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association. We do not have an official position, but we do have concern with being included in the bill and the fiscal impact.
Ernie Silva, Sciatech Charter School. We will also be taking an opposed position.
Thank you. Seeing no others in opposition, any comments from the committee? I have a comment. I think it's a good bill, and I appreciate that you want peace officers, not a guard that might have gone through a 2-week 832 class, which that's not the same thing. Someone who's trained in the area of law enforcement. And I think you're not asking these officers to interact with the students as far as discipline. That's not what you're seeking to do. You're seeking simply to keep the facility and the people in and around that facility safe. And as one who comes from a high school of 5,200 kids, okay, with 2 sheriffs, usually, on campus, on or around, it's also around in those after-school hours, I know how important this is. If you haven't had that experience, you haven't seen the mass of people and the activities surrounding a very urban high school, you might be afraid of this concept. But if you've interacted and seen this, lived it, I think you'd be much more supportive. And any 5,200, if high school of 5,200 is a small city. Small cities have police officers too, for the very same reason. So I am supportive. I think there are others who wish to comment. Mr. Thurman. Oh, Mr. Lackey, I'm sorry. Mr. Lackey, did you wish to?
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and go. I want to thank the author for having the courage to bring this forward at this very delicate time. We know that this is a very, very disturbing problem in our society, and the remedies aren't all that simple. But one thing that I think that should resonate very clearly is that it's not okay to leave all of our children defenseless, and that's what we've done. We've had some good, well-intended policies within our state and within local control. But one thing is inarguable, that it is clearly not okay to leave a body of children that have been entrusted defenseless. And I think this is a reasonable point. There have been a lot of proposals, and I think this one should resonate. And to say that someone who has been given the privilege to possibly even sacrifice their life for the benefit of others as a threat to them is unimaginable to me. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and I think it makes good common sense because we need to do something. Thank you.
Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the author, just want some clarification because as we discussed this bill, you shared with me that your bill would require school resource officers. There's still language here and references to armed security guards. And while I have deep respect for the work that those who are in armed security agencies do, I have worked for many years with school resource officers, and I have a different level of comfort with those school resource officers who I've worked with because I have experienced them to understand that first thing they do is build a relationship with students to do preventative work that they can. And then when there is a situation, like when a child calls their parent and says, "Dad, our school's under lockdown because we have a gun on campus," I received that call. A school resource officer knows how to go from being a preventative officer to being in a law enforcement safety response. And so, but I'd be concerned if we're talking about opening it up to those who don't have the same level of training of a school resource officer, because there are too many variables that can happen and have happened. We know that kids have been mistreated in a number of circumstances where people have improvised. And we know that school resource officers can never be used as the disciplinarians for what students do. Kids are going to do what they're going to do. And so, as I shared with you, if this is a bill to put guns on campus in a way that could really open us up for reckless behavior or misinterpretation, or those who haven't had the proper training being asked to defend in a situation that could get even worse, I won't support it. If we're talking about school resource officers only who've had the proper training, where there is the proper oversight, where there will not be an expectation that they will be used or misused to be the deans or the disciplinarians of student behavior on campus, then I think we have a conversation worth happening. Would you please clarify?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Thurman. And again, I appreciate the conversation that we've had about this bill and your experience, having worked on the schools and worked with student resource officers, or school resource officers, was very informative to me. Just so you know, we are taking the committee amendment that would remove private security from being part of this. This would only be school resource officers. Originally, when I did that, there are some private security firms out there who have the additional training, but I heard the concern that we want school resource officers, and that's why we're accepting the amendment. It would only be school resource officers in this bill.
Thanks for the clarification. Thanks for taking the amendment. Thank you for your leadership there, Mr. Chair. Then would you speak to the other key provisions? Because there are going to be people who have the right to be concerned about what this could turn into, even with it being school resource officers. And there have been misuses and abuses of school resource officer programs throughout our state that have led to children being criminalized for carrying out the behaviors that kids carry out. I guess I'm asking you to speak to how we are structuring this so that those things don't happen. Training and expectation so that these are not officers being used to take over what should be work done by the school staff to address student behavior.
No, I'm definitely sensitive to those concerns. And one thing is there is, as you stated, there is additional training. To be a school resource officer, it's more than just being a peace officer. It's more than just having post-training. There is additional training on top of that that goes into how you engage with students in order to become an actual school resource officer. So there is that additional training here. As with all kind of big bills like this, This is still a work in progress, and I'm still wanting to work with all the stakeholders on this to make sure it addresses all of those different concerns. I've heard some discussion about, is there maybe schools that already have a resource officer or have different programs? Maybe is there an opt-out? Maybe that's something that we could discuss as we move forward. But I definitely am sensitive to those issues. You want to ensure that that this person is in a place of obviously first of all defense of the school if there is some sort of threat, but also has a positive relationship with the kids on the campus. And there was a great article in my local paper just recently about a school resource officer at Marysville High School and how his engagement on campus has had a very positive environment for the entire campus. And I know you've seen that in Richmond as well. So we're definitely wanting to engage on that. And again, this isn't the final product. As we're moving forward, we will continue to have that discussion. And I would love to continue to discuss this with you. So,
have you? Well, to your point, not being a school resource officer is not the job for every officer. There are some officers who don't want to work in an environment that is prevention first, law enforcement second, building a relationship with students, and the level of preventative stuff that can happen. And so I appreciate your approach to this. I do think that there's an elephant in the room that's got to get addressed, and that is that historically there have just been bad relationships between law enforcement agencies and various groups in the community, kids of color and others, and there's a huge level of distrust that I think if we don't talk about it, we do ourselves an injustice and a disservice. And so in that respect, I'm asking you, as the author of the bill, what are your plans to build in the kind of oversight accountabilities to make sure that what you intend, and what I hear you say you intend to build, gets built in a way that takes into account the historical disproportionate and negative experiences between law enforcement in some communities and kids of color and kids from certain backgrounds? And what will we do to make sure that this doesn't open the door for school districts, police officers to criminalize kids, mistreat kids in the ways that have occurred in some situations?
Well, first of all, I'd say, look, I want to sit down with people who have concerns and engage with them and hear what their different ideas are. I'm open, to suggestions on how we ensure that and how we build in an accountability mechanism on that, or is there maybe some additional training? At this point in time, what we're talking about is one SRO per campus, right? So we're not talking about multiple people, but we're talking at least one person. Look, as we move forward, I will continue to engage with all stakeholders, and I'm open to different ideas about how we do that.
I'll be looking for that. I think there has to be that level of oversight and accountability so those who don't have the trust and the faith that this can work can know that there are structures to help it to work. Now, if it works, it works. And what I hope happens is that strong relationships get built, like in community policing where strong relationships get built. Right. But until that happens, I think there's a fair expectation that there should be built-in structures to ensure that there are oversights to protect against abuse, misuse that could result in a criminalization of children, the mistreatment of children, or the harm of children. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate from my own classroom experience, I have not seen the officers on my own campus engage in student discipline. I don't think that's your goal either. I appreciate Mr. Thurman's comments with me. How do we build that wall statutorily? I don't know, but I appreciate your willingness to have those conversations going forward. But I also think this is an opportunity to have an officer on campus and build relationships with students so that there is that trust gained or regained. So I appreciate where all of us are coming from. With that, you may close.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your time on this, and I would just respectfully ask for your aye vote on this measure.
Great. Thank you. Could Secretary please establish a quorum?
O'Donnell.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Colera. Lackey.
Here.
McCarty. Thurmond.
Here.
Weber.
We do have a quorum. So with that, The bill's been moved and seconded, and I just want to reiterate there are two amendments. Remove the references to armed security guards, so we want a full peace officer on campus, and include charter schools in the requirement to have an armed peace officer on campus. The bill has been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
The motion is do pass as amended to appropriations. O'Donnell, aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie? Aye. Kylie, aye. Lackey? Aye. Lackey, aye. Cholera? McCarty? Thurmond? Aye. Thurmond, aye. Weber? Has 4 votes.
So the bill is out. It has 4 votes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members.
With that, we move on to Ms. Gonzalez Fletcher, item number 5. And you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members. AB 1974 would prevent school districts from taking punitive action against a student for having debt to the school and from using a debt collector when attempting to collect debt owed by a parent or guardian. Increasingly, families are expected to pay more out of their pockets in order for their children to participate in school. When families lack the resources to pay, schools and districts turn to punitive measures against students for a debt that they have little control over. Districts have been known to deny honors certificates, transcripts and diplomas, participation in graduation ceremonies, and participation in field trips. These exclusions ultimately result in differential treatment, which can affect a student's academic experience and their social well-being. In one example of action taken against a student, a charter school in East Oakland would provide honor roll students a certificate that included a watermark that read "debt owed" if their parent owed even the smallest amount of money. In addition to taking action against pupils, schools and districts have turned to sending families to debt collectors, which will forever affect their credit rating. That was happening in San Diego, although I will say that the San Diego Unified School District has since stopped that action and have voted to support this bill. This is simply unacceptable, and those actions only perpetuate a family's financial difficulties. When parents lack the resources to pay, schools and districts should work cooperatively with parents rather than act like a loan provider in sending families to collections. With me today to testify, I have a couple of witnesses, and I'll leave it to them.
Good afternoon. Michelle Stoll-Parvensky, Children's Defense Fund, California, and we're pleased to sponsor this bill. California's Constitution guarantees every child a free public education, but ask any parent in California, and they will tell you that public school attendance is often anything but free. From bus rides to uniforms to school supplies to lost books, parents who lack the resources to keep up with the bills have increasing opportunities to go into debt with the school. No child should be burdened because of their parents' unpaid school debt. Some school districts take direct action against those students when the parent owes debt, denying transcripts or certificates, denying access to the library, banning participation in the graduation ceremony, or access to field trips. For instance, an advocate shared a story of Mario, a student in San Diego who had been in special education for most of his schooling before going into traditional classroom for his senior year. He was excited about his graduation ceremony and then got a senior debt list a week before the ceremony that lists a missing 4th grade book. And the school told him that he couldn't participate in the ceremony unless he paid those debts. He was heartbroken because he had worked so hard to get there. Children should simply not be used as a tool for debt collection, or shamed or marginalized from school activities because of a parent's inability or unwillingness to pay a debt. That adverse action towards students contributes to a hostile environment for our low-income students. Furthermore, third-party debt collection for school debts may actually violate child privacy laws. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, generally prohibits schools from sharing information about children without written consent. It's not clear that school districts sharing a student's information with a third-party debt collector actually complies with FERPA. AB 1974 will prevent children from being brought into the private debt payment arrangements between a school and a parent or guardian. The bill doesn't require that schools absorb all of the unpaid fees or stop collecting debt. It simply prohibits schools from using children as a means to collect those debts or sharing information about that child with third-party debt collectors. Our children should not be used as tools for debt collection. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Kathy Scher for the ACLU of California. The right to a free education is enshrined in the California Constitution. That right is not contingent on a student's or a family's ability to pay fees. Denying a student the ability to receive grades or transcripts, to take part in school activities such as field trips, or even to participate in a graduation ceremony because the family has unpaid fees is quite simply a denial of that constitutional right. Such actions are also fundamentally unfair to low-income students who are burdened with both the shame of having their peers know about their struggles, because all of these steps are things that other students are easily going to be able to observe, and barriers to getting the education they deserve when the schools take action against them because of a family's unpaid fees. The state of California is committed to equity in its system of public education, but a school taking negative action against a student because the parents have been unable to pay fees is not equitable. It harms students from lower income families while students from higher income families have nothing to worry about. To preserve the right of all California students to a free education and to protect educational equity in our state, we ask that you vote yes on AB 1974.
Great. Thank you. And to clarify the amendments on here, they exempt the bill's provisions from debt owed due to vandalism or loss, willful damage to school property. Those are the ones we discussed today.
Those amendments we discussed,
Were
I'd like
accepted
to.
today.
I would like to.
We will not renegotiate them now.
That's fine. Not I think
I know that
they're-
you want to work on this bill further. I know that you're
I
committed
want to work
do
on this
that.
bill further. I want to clarify one thing that I was concerned with. Vandalism, yes. Willful loss, yes. But I am concerned about homeless students who may lose textbooks because of displacement of their own family.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we have a conversation about that?
Yeah, that's what I
don't
was
think it's our
hoping
intent
to do.
to
No,
to-
exactly. I think it's
so-
a very small percentage, but we
'Cause
have
I
to
know
recognize.
there was some conversation had today where
Sure.
I thought this was pretty nailed down.
No, it
So
is
now
pretty
we
nailed
seem to
down.
be going back down that
Well,
path.
you
so-
know, these small, I don't unfortunately think first of a homeless student who maybe gets displaced 6 times during a school
that
year.
is a legitimate concern.
Right. So,
we
but-
will contemplate that.
Yes, we'll contemplate that and accept the amendments as written now.
Bingo. Thank you. Others in support.
Mike Carroll with the Western Center on Law and Poverty in support also.
Laura Preston with the Association of California School Administrators. With the amendments, as I think I understand them, we are able to support the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Others in opposition.
In support, though? Additional?
In opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hold it. Do we have some further in support?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
just state.
Quickly, Danielle Kando-Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in strong support. Thank you.
Seeing no others in support, hey, get up here if you're in support.
My apologies. Louis Brown Jr. on behalf of Policy Link and the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color in strong support.
Thank you. Okay, those in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cliff Berg here on behalf of the California Association of Collectors. I have to say my client is sympathetic to the intent of the author and to most of the provisions of the bill, and we are in conversations working with her on trying to figure out the right approach. Currently, as the bill is currently written, it contains a complete ban on a school district or school contracting with a collection agency. We think that is overbroad and is not exactly the right approach, and I look forward to working with the author on trying to drill down on really focusing on what areas are a problem, but the approach of, in essence, completely banning a relationship with legal business when certain school districts don't have the resources to do that, as well as the need to focus on specific problem areas. I think we are certainly sympathetic to protecting students and their families, and particularly low-income students, from any kind of onerous or problematic practices, but at this time we are opposed.
Others in opposition.
Sarah Botches with CASBA. We had an oppose unless amended due to the conversation that took place. Thank you so much for the committee amendments, and we look forward to reconsidering our position.
All right, seeing no other further opposition behind the rail, any comments? Mr. McCarty.
Sure. I came in a bit late, but I support the bill. I'll move the bill right now.
Thank you.
With the amendment. But I do have a question for you. So I think it's I think the belief of many of us that we don't want to penalize being poor. That's why we did the shaming for school lunches last year, and in this bill and the stories that you bring up from your own area in San Diego, I think provide as powerful examples that we don't want to harm people and go after people for being poor.
Mm-hmm.
But there are hypotheticals, and I know we're still working on this, where maybe an individual just doesn't want to pay their after-school program, and they're not in necessarily income bracket where poverty rises up. Maybe there are some outliers, and so are there any examples where collection would be appropriate potentially for a school district? And so I just want to ask your thoughts on that.
I understand, and I've heard hypotheticals about students and drones in rich areas and parents not wanting to pay for drones, which I didn't know were being used by schools. As far as an after-school program, and that could be unique, and that's something we want to work on. It's often, sometimes it's a third party operating that after-school program, and so the third party might have a relationship with the parent separately, contractual relationship that they could still pursue. If it's being done through the school, by all means, a school could, it's an after-school program. I think we didn't intend to say that children who otherwise didn't qualify for free or reduced prices could continue to attend after-school programs without paying. Those are usually structured in a way that you get billed in a systematic time frame, and if you're not paying your bill, could not utilize something that is extra beyond the school day. So I think that there are other tools available. My concern is writing huge exemptions, right? Because we started this with the fact that debt collectors were being used, and found out later by a school district that they weren't actually getting back. They were losing money using a debt collector. It was the threat of the collection, and in the meantime, ruining people's credit. And those were mainly middle class and lower middle class students who may not have been in free and reduced lunch program beginning of the year, and then become a parent loses a job or has a different situation. So if there's specific things that we can write in to protect schools from rich parents who just don't want to pay bills, I'm more than happy to do that. By no intention did I have a bill to allow people to circumvent their responsibility. So we're more than happy to work with you if you have some ideas on that.
Thank you. And maybe the place to go is have the state backfill those dollars associated with the loss. If we're saying you can't collect on that, and again, for free and reduced, they are probably already exempt in many cases.
Yeah.
So those are conversations we can have down the road.
Or rather than having a school resource officer at every school.
That's a different bill. I didn't see you come up and testify on that.
I don't know. That seemed really expensive, too.
I think that was a co-author request right there. But Mr. Kiley
Was that the report from the approach chair?
Mr. Kiley had a...
I'm sure. Many questions.
Okay, back to this bill. So the chair just actually brought up the point I was going to raise, which is looking at the committee analysis. It looks like low-income families are already exempt from a lot of these fees. So why is this bill necessarily a priority? I mean, for the author, for the Western Center on Law and Poverty, when
it's not just the fees, first of all, and to be clear, it's not just the fees. And we're talking specifically about busing. Yes, on busing, free and reduced lunch children who fall under that category often are covered. But you have situations throughout the year that a child who may start off the year with parents in a financial position where they're not subject to that, things can change. And we see that a lot. Situations change. But it's not just the busing aspect that we're talking about here. We're also talking about things like stamping a child's diploma, or not giving a child a diploma because of the debts of their parents. There's something fundamentally unfair about that. It is not the child's fault. We should not penalize a child for having, in situations where their parents are not poor, having parents who are unwilling to pay for something. And education is supposed to be free. And so we just want to ensure that the child is left harmless in any kind of situation by which the parent is responsible. That's why we accepted the amendment on things like vandalized school books, right? That is a situation by which most of the time the child is not the child is in fact the person who caused that.
Yeah, and for the kind of the other part of the bill, the debt collector part, do you know in practice what usually happens, how schools are arranging to get these debts? Are most of them using debt collectors, or do they have some other way of trying to?
We found when we first started that most were not using debt collectors, and San Diego was a unusual circumstance, and San Diego Unified has since stopped that practice. However, in further review, in fact, meeting with the opponents, we found that, in fact, some rural schools use kind of contract with debt collectors in the process of doing their normal just collection of accounts receivable. So that's what he was talking about, and having to deal with, do you use a third party? Do you outsource collecting just things that are rightfully being charged? And we want to ensure that could be done in a way that doesn't violate federal law, but also doesn't put people's credit at jeopardy, credit score.
I see. So that's an alternative you'd actually be open to.
If we can do it where it doesn't violate federal law, where a school district is simply, I hate that they're outsourcing, but they have to contract with a third party in order to do kind of the accounts receivable at a school. That is not what I'm trying to prevent.
So what's the difference between that and a debt collector? Why is one okay and the other not?
The actions of a debt, well, what was happening in San Diego was a traditional debt collection situation where their contract, after trying to receive the payment from the parent, they sent it to a debt collector, sold it for pennies on the dollar. They, in fact, lost money by doing this. And as a result, the debt collectors I don't want to offend anyone's business, but pursued the debt in a way that's traditional, like any other debt, and eventually leading to people's credit score being ruined.
I see. So yeah, it seems like the concern is with the credit mostly on your end, and that you'll take a hit if you go to a registered or official debt collector, but some other third party who's actually collecting debts, maybe that won't happen.
Well, even the schools do, right? A school doesn't just send, they have a form of alerting parents that you owe something, right? And some schools, I've forgotten to pay something once and gotten 16 emails from the school till I come in and pay it. And that's normal activity that happens, I think, at schools. And obviously, if you're a large enough school, you can provide that within your own accounting system. I understand if a small rural school or a small school can't provide for a position that does that might be necessary.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm still a little unclear on, whether you're just categorically opposed to this particular industry having any role in the process, at the point at which you're willing to allow for third parties to participate.
Well, we have to make sure that we're abiding by federal law, first of all, and making sure we're not giving away the students' information. But I am not opposed to people collecting what is owed. I am opposed to ruining, folks' credit score, especially those who are in a tenable situation and are paying for something, quite frankly, that I think we're doing a disservice to most parents by not providing for free.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? You may not know the answer. Maybe the opposition or even the supporters will know. Is government debt, when it goes to a collection agency, does it impact your credit score?
It traditionally does not. There's an exception, but if you use an independent, like the bus service that in San Diego, it did. So the parents who spoke out.
Hi, Cliff Berg back. I think the answer would be that, it depends on the kind of government debt. So there is an agreement between the National Attorney General's Association, Debt Collection, and the credit bureaus that certain kinds of government debt, such as penalties and fees, are not reportable on credit. Other kinds that are actually contractual agreements, where you agree with a government agency to accept a service in return, just like any normal private transaction, would be reportable. I think, however, in the case of the school debt situation that we have been talking to the author about, certainly we are willing to work with her in trying to address her concerns about credit reporting over these kinds of educational expenses that, clearly fall into this category of areas of equal education and protecting students and low-income students and families from having their credit scores in any way affected by what would be normal collection activities, even though it was contractual. So we're hoping to work with her on writing the right language to cover these situations in this instance. But yeah, there are broad limits. Certain kinds of government debt is reportable, some isn't. I would also just add, just for the record, that the collection industry, which represents banks and hospitals and doctors, has to abide by all the privacy laws in our country, whether it's HIPAA, whether it's financial privacy, and they certainly are going to agree and it's part of their both legal responsibility, and they would be sued up the gazoo if they violated anybody's privacy rights in the education area. They have to comply with all of that in the healthcare and in the financial privacy areas. So certainly happy to reassure the author of any kinds of need to restate that.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment, do we have a motion?
We have a motion.
Oh, we do? Okay. The motion is due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Please call the roll.
We need a second.
Oh, we need a second? Who moved it?
McCarty.
Who?
Mr. McCarty.
I'll second it. Okay. Mr. Thurman, second.
Okay. The motion is due pass with amendments to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie?
No.
Kylie, no. Lackey? Calra?
Aye.
Calra, aye. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Thurmond? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. It has 4 votes.
The bill has 4 votes. It is out. All right. Next, we'll go to Mr. Nazarian, which has been sitting out there patiently. With a smile, you may come up and present your bill. It's AB 2319, file item number 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues. And for the sake of the committee's work ahead, I'll keep it very brief. AB 2319 would delete the term foreign language from the Education Code and replace it with the term world language. Straightforward as it sounds. With me is Nicole Naditz, a program specialist at the San Juan Unified School District.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair O'Donnell and members of the Assembly Education Committee. As he said, my name is Nicole Naditz, and I am speaking to you today as a representative of the California Language Teachers Association, and I will be brief. World language programs provide students with linguistic and intercultural knowledge, skills, and proficiencies necessary to interact with speakers of other languages in ways that demonstrate their readiness for life, work, and citizenship in our diverse, evolving, and interconnected society. But in Ed Code and other official state documents, these programs are not designated as world language, but as foreign language, and this poses difficulties on numerous fronts. For example, the word foreign often has a negative connotation that sets one group of people or objects apart from others as being strange, alien, different, and unfamiliar. And the fact that these 4 terms are the most common synonyms of the word foreign provides compelling evidence that classifying the study of languages as foreign risks promoting a connotation that is in direct contrast to the unifying work we do as world language educators and to the distinct value that California's vast linguistic and cultural diversity brings to our communities and our local and global business operations. And in fact, in California, a state that is rich in diversity, no language is truly foreign. Changing all references in Ed Code and official documents to world language sends a clear message that our wealth of native and acquired languages are an asset that sets California apart and certainly not a foreign phenomenon in our linguistic and culturally diverse society. In fact, American Sign Language and the numerous Native American languages spoken in California are absolutely not foreign. But currently, these truly American languages must be classified as foreign languages due to the wording currently in place in Ed Code and for all official education documents. In addition, it is important to know that 42 of 50 states have already erased the term foreign and replaced it with the term world when referencing courses of study aimed at learning languages other than English. Therefore, in the spirit of inclusiveness and on behalf of our students, world language programs, and the diverse citizens of California's communities, we urge you to approve AB 2319 and adopt the term world language. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Martha Zaragoza Diaz, on behalf of the California Association for Bilingual Education and Californians Together, we support the bill.
Alejandro Espinosa, on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson, in support.
Tanya Zacconi, Executive Director, California Language Teachers Association, in strong support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Tristan Brown with the California Federation of Teachers. We actually don't have a letter in yet because our convention is this weekend, but we anticipate a support position after that. Thank you.
Isabel Garcia, California Teachers Association. We're recommending a support at our State Council of Education meeting.
Thank you. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any comment? I don't see any. You may close.
In the spirit of inclusiveness, I ask for an aye vote.
Please call the roll. The motion is due pass to appropriations.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie? Aye. Kylie, aye. Lackey? Calra? Calra, aye. McCarty? McCarty, aye. Thurmond? Thurmond, aye. Weber? Weber, aye. 6 votes, it's out.
Great. 6 votes, the bill is out. Thank you. Ms. Quirk-Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues.
Item number 2. Wait, this is an item 2. What is Quirk-Silva? Item number 12. Item number 12. May begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for hearing our bill, AB 2271. And as a classroom teacher and watching my students for many, many years eat lunch, that we know that over the years that our lunches have changed. We went from school sites preparing meals on site, even central kitchens preparing meals, to now much of the lunch types of foods are packaged and brought to the schools. So my bill would help reduce food waste on our K-12 schools by expanding existing grant opportunities now available through the National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grants. Basically, this will allow schools to match their funds with the National School Lunch to buy larger equipment so they could, in fact, start to cook healthier meals. Now, some might say, well, that'll take quite a bit of time. And one of the districts in my district, Centralia, they actually already are doing this. And what they are doing is they're taking some of their older types of equipment that they pretty much put away in the last decade, brought it out, have purchased some other types of larger cooking equipment to pretty much prepare food on site there. They now call their cook a chef, a school chef, which we haven't heard that, I'm sure. But the chef believes in what he's doing so much that he says his young daughter actually eats the food and they test it out at home. He's also told us that some of the parents themselves have called to ask for the recipes. But this story really relates not only to not wasting food, but to creating healthier students on our campus. So with that, I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any others in support? Seeing no others in support, any opposition? Seeing none, any comments from behind the dais? Mr. Kiley?
Good afternoon, Ms. Quirk-Silva. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So there's been, a $3 million pot of money that's become available through the federal government for California schools to apply for, and up to $100,000 blocks. Is that right?
Well, it would be for a matching grant.
Right.
So
I
that,
understand.
yes.
But that the existing program is federal, and
Yes.
there's $3 million
Yes.
that's fixed.
Yes.
And we're divvying that up among the schools that apply in
And
California.
the ones that want to apply. So it's definitely up to the school districts. If they're interested in this type of approach, they could, in essence, match their funds.
Yeah, so why are we then giving state funds to those very same schools that are getting the federal funds? Isn't that kind of like the rich getting richer? And
we aren't necessarily giving the funds to the same schools. It's up to the school district if they want to apply. But if they may already have applied and have started this process, but it would be so maybe multiple schools can join together to have a central type of kitchen. That's one way to look at it, putting their money together. But yes, it is. It would be joining the federal dollars with the state dollars so they could actually have enough to put together to, in essence, build some type of central kitchen. And we used to have those in most of our school districts. Most of those were closed down. Matter of fact, my mother used to work in one of the central kitchens, and that's where they actually prepared food like potatoes, boiled them, and made mashed potatoes versus using processed food.
Well, I mean, I don't, object to the idea. It seems like this could be a really good thing for districts. I'm just wondering, kind of, why is it, is $100,000 not enough? Is it just $200,000?
Well, if you think about $3 million across the state of California, even if 4 or 5 school districts applied for that, that's still very limited to really start kind of a pilot that could take off and encourage others. So this is, in essence, a matching funds.
All right. Okay. I guess I'd just like to see a little bit more information on.
We can get you that.
The Department of Agriculture decided to set these limits of $100,000, so why we're going to take the winning kind of applications and then augment that money rather than try to create a more widely distributed benefit.
Well, if you think about $100,000, it's still, if you're trying to bring back what you would call a central type of kitchen, and you look at different type of equipment, that $100,000, depending on how large the school district is, the school district I worked in has 15 schools. If you think about $100,000 per 15 schools, that's $10,000. You might get a big oven for that. So all the other things that go along with a cooking, a working kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments, you may close. Do we have a motion on this yet?
Yes.
We did? Okay, we do have a motion. So you may close.
Just would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, the motion is to pass to appropriations. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie?
No.
Kylie, no. Lackey?
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Calra? Calra, aye. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye.
6-1, it's out.
6-1, the bill is out. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Next, we go to Caballero. I don't see her. There she is, right there. I have file item number 9. AB 2121, file item number 9. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. First, I'd like to thank the committee staff for their work on this bill, and I will be accepting the committee amendments today. AB 2121 will simply add migrant students to existing law so that they can receive partial or full credit for work completed in another school and be exempt from local coursework requirements that are additional to state coursework requirements if a student cannot reasonably meet them in the time for high school graduation. Current law provides these rights to students in foster care, those who are homeless, former juvenile court students, or children of military families. Research has shown student mobility has negative effects on student success, including test scores, retention, and high school completion. The legislature has long recognized that students that are required to move repeatedly face many obstacles to high school graduation and has passed legislation to allow them to graduate yet complete important graduation requirements. Frankly, extending these rights to migrant students is long overdue. Migrant students are some of the most vulnerable students and face a greater risk of failing to graduate from high school due to family relocation. And California is home to the largest number of migrant students in the nation, with 90,112 migrant students. This is especially important to me as my region is home to the largest number of migrant students in the state. AB 2121 will help migrant students stay on track to meet coursework requirements when they move schools so they can graduate from high school. With me to testify in support, I have Martha Zaragoza Diaz with Californians Together, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Good afternoon, Martha Zaragoza Diaz on behalf of Californians Together and the California Association for Bilingual Education, and mine is a personal statement. I have many extended family members that were migratory students that we're talking about in this bill. As children, they had to follow their parents who were seeking jobs in agriculture, from ranch to ranch, county to county, oftentimes out of state. This resulted in significant educational disruptions for my cousins. I saw them struggle. They couldn't meet the necessary credits required for high school graduation, nor could they meet local high school graduation requirements. As a result, many of them don't have high school diploma. Many of them were limited in the types of employment they could obtain. At that time, the options proposed by AB 2121 were not available. This is the reason why we support AB 2121. It is proposing to provide to migrant students exemptions from specific local high school graduations and the ability for school districts to accept partial credit. We believe this is a fair bill. We believe this is a necessary bill if we are to support our migrant students in pursuing their high school diploma. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association in support.
Alejandro Espinosa on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson. Unfortunately, we were unable to get a letter in time, but we do have a support position.
Danielle Kando-Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in support.
Laura Preston, Association of California School Administrators in support.
Thank you. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, no comments from any of the committee members, you may close.
Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay. Do we have a motion? It has been moved by Mr. Carra and second by Mr. McCarty. The motion is do pass as amended to appropriations. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie? Lackey?
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Calra?
Aye.
Calra, aye. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye.
6-0.
6-0. The bill is out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that, we'll turn to Mr. Gloria. He's been very patient, smiling down there. You may proceed when ready. And next, we'll go to Mr. Thurmond, because I don't see Mr. Berman. Okay, and then we'll go to Dr. Weber after that, and then me.
Sounds like a plan, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I will want to begin this afternoon by accepting the committee's amendments and with appreciation to your staff for working with mine to improve this bill. AB 2949 increases the educational stability of military children in our state. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, children of military families change schools, get a load of this, up to 9 times on average before graduating. These children are often forced to experience additional unnecessary school changes due to military housing availability. California is home to 56,127 military dependents attending K-12 schools in our state, with a large concentration, not surprisingly, in Dr. Weber and I's districts. Numerous studies indicate that the student mobility is associated with poor educational outcomes, higher dropout rates, and a wider knowledge gap for these students. Now, to address this issue, AB 2949 gives our service families the option of completing the academic year at their school of origin despite a change in residence during the school year. This bill also provides educational stability for children whose parents' military status changed mid-academic year. In the case of K to 10th grade students, they would be able to complete the school year at their current school. And for 11th and 12th grade students, they would be allowed to complete their education, get their diploma at their current school. AB 2949 empowers local educational agencies to reduce the number of unnecessary school transitions for these important students. I respectfully ask for your aye vote today. And with me, I have one witness, Kelly May, with who's the Regional School Liaison for the United States Marine Corps Installations West.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly May, and I work for the Marine Corps. I'm representing the Commanding General for Marine Corps Installations West, which is based at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton. We cover 7 installations in the state of California of the 32 military installations that are here. We also have approximately 16,500 Marine Corps children of active duty Marines that are attending school here in California. So with so many of our children attending California schools, the Marine Corps takes very seriously the quality of educational experiences and their success. Our students move every 3 years, typically, causing them to attend an average of 6 to 9 schools before they graduate. The Marine Corps works very hard to reduce the negative impact of the high degree of transition our Marine families incur, which are oftentimes very necessary for mission requirements and training. We have a variety of policies that reduce mid-year transfers and programs that support military school-age children through their transitions, to include a program called the School Liaison Program. One way that the state can continue to assist military families is to join us in reducing mid-year school transfers that not only hurt schools that must adjust to the frequent transition of their population, but more importantly, can hurt military children and their civilian peers. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Kai Jackson with San Diego Unified School District in strong support.
Thank you. Seeing no others in support, any opposition? Seeing no opposition, any comments from any of the committee members? So do we have a motion? Mr. Calra, and then Mr. Thurman seconds. And the motion is do pass as amended to Veterans Affairs. So this is double referred to another committee. With that, please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie? Lackey? Aye. Lackey, aye. Calra? Aye. Calra, aye. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Thurmond? Aye. Thurmond, aye. Weber? Aye. Weber, aye.
6. It's out.
The bill is out with
Thank
6
you,
votes. Thank you. With that, we'll go to file item number 17, AB 2639 by Mr. Berman. You may begin when ready. Proceed when ready. File item 17. What's Berman and O'Donnell?
That's right. Darn right. Mr. Chair and members, the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that suicide among adolescents and young adults is on the rise nationally and is now the second leading cause of death among youth and young adults aged 10 to 24 years of age. Unfortunately, my hometown of Palo Alto has experienced 2 suicide clusters, one during the 2008-2009 school year and the other during the 2014 to 15 school year, which resulted in 10 tragedies. In 2016, Chair O'Donnell authored AB 2246, which requires schools to adopt policies for the prevention of student suicides and requires the California Department of Education to develop and maintain a model suicide prevention policy. Building upon this legislation, Chair O'Donnell and I have joint authored AB 2639, which would support our schools' efforts to improve suicide awareness and prevent further tragedies by offering online suicide prevention training for all school staff as well as students. As the committee points out in the analysis, numerous policy documents on suicide prevention recommend that teachers and other school staff be trained on this topic, generally viewing school staff as gatekeepers who can play a critical role in preventing suicide. AB 2639 would require the California Department of Education to identify evidence-based online suicide prevention training programs and provide funding to make the identified training program available to all public schools serving students in grades 7 to 12 at no cost to the schools. This legislation is subject to a budget appropriation, and it is important to note that schools are not required to use the training program, which would be offered on a voluntary basis. The goal of AB 2639 is to better equip and support schools by providing access to training in a cost-effective and convenient manner to ensure the safety of our students. This bill has received no opposition and has support from various organizations representing suicide prevention advocates, LGBTQ youth advocates, mental health advocates, parents, and school districts. And I want to thank the chair for his leadership and partnership on an issue that hits close to home. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Your witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Rick Sabur, and I'm Executive Director of Equality California, the nation's largest statewide LGBT civil rights organization. Equality California brings the voices of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people and allies to institutions of power in California and across the United States, striving to create a world that is healthy, just, and fully equal for all LGBTQ people. We are proud to co-sponsor this bill along with the Trevor Project, and we thank Assemblymember Berman and Assemblymember O'Donnell to build on AB 2246, which Equality California and the Trevor Project also proudly co-sponsored in 2016. I'd like to keep my testimony brief and cede any time remaining to my colleague at the Trevor Project, but I'd like to say that LGBTQ youth are up to 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their non-LGBTQ peers. Thankfully, research has shown that having at least one supportive adult in their lives can significantly reduce that risk for our LGBTQ youth. Research has also shown that the number one person a fellow student turns to when trying to help a friend who might be experiencing suicidal thoughts is a teacher. This bill will empower our teachers and provide them with the tools they need to be the supportive adults that these young people need. We urge the committee's support for this critical legislation to help save young lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Sam Brinton, and I serve as the head of Advocacy and Government Affairs for the Trevor Project. We are the nation's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention program for LGBT youth. Our 24/7 hotline and digital services are on track to directly serve 75,000 callers this year, along with chatters and texters who have nowhere else to turn. Our education work includes educating for improved school policies, such as the model schools approach used in the successful AB 2246, as well as particular training programs that teachers and guidance counselors can access online. Why is this training so critical? We recognize that long before a crisis, a person can benefit from even one person in their life who has been trained in culturally competent recognition of warning signs of suicide. To mitigate the crisis of youth suicide in California, we must recognize that education is prevention. I want to close my remarks with a first-hand experience of one of our amazing volunteers who received training we hope legislation like AB 2639 would provide to California teachers and staff. They said, "Suicide prevention training is like receiving the Rosetta Stone for communicating with individuals dealing with immeasurable pain, trauma, and hopelessness. It empowers us with essential skills to break through the often impenetrable walls that arise and strengthen over a lifetime for individuals dealing with trauma, mental illness, and thoughts of suicidal ideations. Through training, I found myself imparted with an abundance of resources to utilize not only when speaking with youth that may be suicidal, but also with a tool set that extended beyond the lines of the Trevor Project and into my professional career. We at the Trevor Project are asking you to give the tools to break through a student's pain and provide a teacher or school staff member the words and resources to save a life. Thank you for your time, and I ask for your support for AB 2269.
Thank you, Sam. Well done. Any others in support?
Kathy Hall with the California Parent Teachers Association in support.
Brandon Marchi with the California Medical Association, also in support.
Gordon Dowdy with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and also as an individual member of the State Superintendent Public Instruction Student Mental Health Policy Work Group in support.
Thank you. Any others in support? Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, we'll bring it behind the rail. I just want to thank you for partnering on this, Mr. Berman and Equality California and others. The Trevor Project, you do great work in this area because we know that those students who have challenges, whatever they may be, and I've seen it in my own classroom, where you see a student who just isn't, something's wrong, and you say, well, what's going on in your life? What's happening out there? And they'll say, well, I told my mom I was gay, and now I got kicked out of the house. And they find themselves very vulnerable in the world. And they make choices we don't want them to make. So it's projects like yours, efforts like yours that help solve and help offer some solutions to the challenges our youth and others find themselves in today. Education is prevention. I like that. Any others behind any others? It's been moved by Mr. Thurman, by second by Mr. Kiley. And you may close.
What you said is the perfect close, so I just respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you very much.
All right, and the motion is due pass to appropriations. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kiley.
Aye.
Kiley, aye. Lackey. Lackey, aye. Cholera. Cholera, aye. McCarty. McCarty, aye. Thurmond. Thurmond, aye. Weber. Weber, aye.
7-0.
7-0, the bill is out. Thank you. Well done. With that, we'll go to Mr. Thurman, who is presenting file item number 10, AB 2153.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm pleased to be before you to present AB 2153, a bill that will provide professional development to our teachers to support LGBTQ students. I had the opportunity during the interim to host a roundtable discussion on how we support LGBTQ students who often are impacted by bullying and harassment and mistreatment And as part of our conversation, we landed on the need for professional development for our educators. As you know, our students often face verbal, physical, and online harassment both inside and out of school. As a matter of fact, more than 90% of LGBTQ students report hearing anti-LGBTQ remarks, among other discriminatory actions by their peers. As a result, LGBTQ students cannot be the best students that they can be when they are subjected to these conditions. It's difficult to learn when you fear for your safety or you fear discrimination or retaliation on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, many LGBTQ students who have experienced harassment or assault do not report these incidents to staff. Students are not always certain that those who are around them will have the appropriate knowledge on how to respond appropriately. That's why it's critical that teachers and staff be equipped with the training and tools they need to support our LGBTQ youth. To address this need, this bill will require that teachers in middle and high school receive training about LGBTQ services and supports so that they can know how to best support an LGBTQ youth when they come seeking support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on AB 2153. With me today to testify is Rick Zuber, the Executive Director at Equality California, and Kathy Scher, Legislative Advocate at ACLU.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Rick Zuber with Equality California. We want to thank Assemblymember Thurman, and we are proud to sponsor this bill to give teachers and school staff the training they need to create safe and supportive learning environments for all California students, including those who are LGBTQ and may be facing harassment or lack of acceptance at school, rejection at home, or discrimination in the broader community. Our teachers and staff are on the front lines of ensuring that all children, regardless of background, zip code, sexual orientation, or gender identity, have a shot at the American dream. That often means providing a safety net against the effects of discrimination and lack of acceptance that members of the LGBTQ community, and especially our youth, face, and which too often results in higher dropout rates, lower economic success, high rates of homelessness. 4 out of 10 homeless youth in the state of California are LGBTQ, high rates of substance abuse and suicide, among other disparities in health and well-being. Fundamentally, every child in California deserves a safe and supportive school where they have the opportunity to learn and succeed. When LGBTQ students have that support in school, their likelihood of overcoming the disparities I mentioned, and succeeding in life increases significantly. That's why Equality California is so dedicated to improving school environments and making them safer and more inclusive. It's why we've launched our Safe and Supportive Schools program to assess what schools are doing to protect and support their LGBTQ students and highlight best practices from schools that are creating innovative initiatives and achieving positive outcomes. Ultimately, we know that supportive teachers and school staff can change our children's lives. They can give an LGBTQ kid from Long Beach or Oakland or Orange County or Fresno or San Diego a shot at a brighter future. If we can expect our public school teachers and staff to fulfill this critical mission, we have to give them the tools that they need to support every child. We thank Assemblymember Thurman for championing this important legislation, and we urge the committee to support California students, teachers, and school staff by voting aye. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Kathy Scher for the ACLU of California. Existing law is intended to provide protections for LGBTQ students against harassment and discrimination at school. Among other protections, the law requires the Department of Education to assess whether LEAs provide information to middle school and high school teachers on school and community resources for LGBTQ students. Despite these steps, LGBTQ students still face bullying, harassment, and a lack of acceptance, which lead not only to lower levels of academic success, but also to a range of out-of-school negative outcomes. AB 2153 is a simple step towards ensuring that the information on resources reaches the people who need it, the students, by requiring trainings for teachers of grades 7 through 12 on the school and community resources available and on strategies to support LGBTQ students in their schools. AB 2153 will help schools and teachers create the supportive and inclusive schools we need. We ask for your support.
Thank you. Others in support?
Good afternoon, Barrett Snyder. We have the San Francisco Unified School District. Support if amended. We totally support the bill. Just have a little issue with the 6-week timeline. Love to have some conversation with the author, but hope the bill moves forward and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Samuel Brinton, Head of Advocacy and Government Affairs for the Trevor Project. We stand in support.
Danielle Kando-Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in strong support.
Rory Summers from the Source LGBTQ Center in Visalia, California, in full support.
Thank you. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, any comments from behind the rail? No. Seeing none, Mr. McCarty, do you move? It's been moved by Dr. Weber, seconded by Mr. McCarty. The motion is due pass to appropriations.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie?
Not voting.
Kylie not voting. Lackey? Calra? McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. It's 4 votes.
The bill has 4 votes. It is out.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Dr. Weber will be presenting file item 16, AB 2601.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm here to present to you AB 2601, which extends the California Healthy Youth Act. It's comprehensive sex education and HIV prevention mandates on traditional public schools to charter schools. At the time when we presented AB 20, the first bill in terms of the Healthy Youth Act, it was not ever my thought that it would not apply to all schools, because sex education, healthy education, is something that every child should have. To me, it's as fundamental as reading and writing and math and the sciences. But others had a tendency to not see it because we didn't call it out, even though we said it was for public schools, we didn't call it out. And so therefore, AB 2601 exists today to ensure that California charter school students receive comprehensive sexual health education and HIV prevention education at least once in middle school and in high school, with instruction that is accessible for students with disabilities and English learners. This bill merely sets a foundational baseline for sex education in charter schools while maintaining significant flexibility for charters to decide what curriculum they adopt and what specific grades to provide instruction and other curricular elements. The research is clear that young people critically need quality health education, sexual health education. More than half of California students are sexually active in the 12th grade. California's growing STI rates are highest in young people ages 15 to 24. And sadly, nearly 12 to 10% of California high school students experience sexual dating violence and physical dating violence, respectively. As California seeks to address sexual harassment and abuse, comprehensive sexual health education with its focus on healthy relationships, consent, and challenging negative gender stereotypes is essential for preventing these negative behaviors before they start. At a time when federal funding for adolescent sexual and reproductive health is being cut, California needs to do more to ensure that charter school students have the same access to comprehensive sexual health education as all other public school students. AB 2601 does this by ensuring that all charter schools provide instruction on comprehensive sexual health education. With me today, this bill is sponsored by ACLU, the Black Women of Wellness, and Acts for Women and Girls. With me today to speak in support of AB 2601 is Nancy Burglas from the University of California, San Francisco, Rory Summers, a senior at Visalia University Preparatory High School, and Felista Burlingame will be here from the ACLU for technical assistance.
You may proceed. 2 witnesses, 2 minutes, unless you'd like to split the time up.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Nancy Burglas. I'm an adolescent health researcher at the University of California, San Francisco. For more than 15 years, I've evaluated sex education programs throughout California. In that time, our state has made great strides at improving the health of adolescents. This is attributable in part to California's commitment to comprehensive sexual health information and services for young people. Research has made clear that sex education that addresses both abstinence and birth control can have a positive effect on adolescents, delaying sexual activity, increasing condom and contraceptive use, and reducing rates of unintended pregnancy. Newer research shows additional impact when educators talk with students about gender stereotypes, sexual orientation, sexual harassment, consent, and healthy relationships. Adolescents turn to many sources to learn about sex and relationships: their parents, friends, siblings, movies and TV, and the internet. And often the information that they find is confusing, misleading, or just wrong. The California Healthy Youth Act ensures that students have the knowledge and the skills to understand their bodies, form respectful and consensual relationships, and protect their sexual health. A few years ago, I worked on the evaluation of a new sex education program for 9th grade students at 10 charter schools in Los Angeles. It covered the comprehensive range of topics now required by the California Healthy Youth Act. 1 year later, we found continued positive effects on their knowledge, ability to manage risky situations, communication with their partners, and use of health services. Unfortunately, the classes ended when the funding ended. Students in charter schools need the same information as their peers in traditional public schools. A recent study in San Diego County has shown that the sex education received by charter school students is often lacking. Researchers found that fewer than half of the charter schools addressed key topics like condom use, sexual orientation, communication with partners and parents, and sexual assault. This is not sufficient education to prepare young people for a healthy future, nor is it equitable. All young people need and deserve access to accurate, comprehensive sexual health information. AB 2601 recognizes the needs of the growing number of students in California charter schools and ensures that they have a strong and evidence-based foundation in health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rory Summers. I'm a senior at University Preparatory High School, which is a charter school in Tulare County. I am here as a youth representative for Act for Women and Girls and the Source LGBT Center in Visalia, and I ask for your support for AB 2601. During my time as a student at a charter school, I did not receive fully comprehensive sexual health education like my peers did at Visalia Unified. I opted to go to a charter school to take part in their rigorous curriculum, but I did not decide to unintentionally opt out of sex ed. Sex ed not only teaches us about how to protect ourselves of safe sex, but thanks to the California Healthy Youth Act, students are taught about the sexuality spectrum and gender identity. The inclusion of LGBTQ education not only lays foundation for a knowledge curve that helps cancel out bullying. From my experience, when young people come from a place of knowledge instead of fearing the unknown, we experience less bullying and create friendships instead. We know since the implementation of the California Healthy Youth Act, teen pregnancy rates have dropped throughout the state. But not mandating sex ed in charter schools, we are leaving abstinence-only education on the table for charter schools to implement on their own discretion. The use of abstinence-only education does more harm than no education at all. The main tactic for use of abstinence-only education is shaming those who choose not to be abstinent or don't identify with the male-female binary spectrum. This shaming not just is another form of bullying by students and the teacher. I know that this shaming negatively affects students who are survivors of sexual assault and date violence or are finding their own identity. By withholding sex ed, a large portion of the next generation will not learn how to prepare ourselves with protection of our health, nor will we learn about healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, or learn about people who are different but still very normal. There is no reason for charter school students to fall behind in public school students. We ought to expect equal education regardless of the institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Others in support?
Kai Jackson with San Diego Unified School District in support.
Great. Thank you. Just briefly.
Phillida Burlingame with the ACLU of California in strong support.
Thank you.
Brandon Marchi with the California Medical Association, also in support.
Danielle Kando-Kaiser on behalf of Common Sense Kids Action in strong support.
Andrea San Miguel on behalf of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California in support.
Joe Michael for Equality California in support.
Lydia Bourne representing California School Nurses Organization in support.
Rand Martin on behalf of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation in support.
Hi, Leanne Tratton on behalf of Black Women for Wellness, a proud co-sponsor of this bill. Thank you.
Sarah Hutchinson on behalf of Act for Women and Girls, a co-sponsor on this bill, in support.
Isabel Garcia, California Teachers Association, recommending its support at our April meeting.
Great, thank you. Any others in support? Any opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chair and members, Amy Blumberg on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association. We do not have an official position. We do support the policy in general. We do have some fiscal and equity concerns and look forward to working with the author on these issues going forward.
Thank you. Seeing no other opposition or neutrality, do we have any comments from behind the rail? Seeing none, do we have a motion by Mr. McCarty? Moved by Mr. McCarty, second by Mr. Thurman. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie?
No.
Kylie, no. Lackey? Calra? McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye. That's 4 votes. It's out.
Okay, the bill is out. Thank you. You want to move here or you want to sit there? Road is mine. What's that? Yeah, just do that. It's easier. That way, if they're next to you, and motion whatever, they can tell you what to say. Got it. Nice. Do it to me.
All right. It's a new sheriff in town. Exactly. That's right. All right, Mr. O'Donnell, please proceed. Mindful of the very stringent 2 witnesses, 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. AB 1743 establishes ongoing funding for career technical education programs in our K-12 schools at $500 million per year. This bill provides $12 million per year for regional technical support through county offices of education as well. That's the more local individuals who will help connect CTE programs with industry. They are the industry experts. CTE is critical for students and for the California economy. I think you're hearing that more and more in your districts as businesses need individuals that are trained on the technical side, not just from the university side, the baccalaureate side. As a teacher, I know firsthand that CTE programs engage students and reduce dropout rates. Students need multiple paths to success in the state of California. This bill ensures that. CTE ensures that students are better prepared for life after graduation, whether that includes college or leads straight to a career. Current CTE funding streams expire this year. We need to maintain the strong infrastructure that this legislature has supported in the past and to build on that investment by providing stable, ongoing funding to K-12 schools across the state of California. This proposal keeps the existing incentive grant approach intact, as it has proven successful in ensuring districts across California receive funding, and that this remains a program that incentivizes the creation and support of strong CTE programs in a fair and equitable manner. We see no need to disrupt the successful existing programs by creating a new level of bureaucracy with local consortia coordinated by the community college system that may end up less equitable. I respect the California community college system, but I am not convinced that the community colleges know what K-12 schools need, nor should it play a role in managing them. AB 1743 keeps K-12 dollars in the K-12 system. This is clearly a bipartisan issue, and I am proud to be joined by 25 colleagues as joint authors and co-authors on both sides of the aisle, including Mr. Chavez, Mr. McCarty, Mr. Thurman, and many others. And today with me here is Ms. Burke, who I believe wishes to speak to the item as well. She is your chair of the Select Committee on CTE, and of course one of the joint authors on this bill, and a strong proponent of CTE.
Thank you for having me as the chair of the Select Committee on Career Technical Education and also as a proud sponsor, joint author of AB 1743. I want to thank Assemblymember O'Donnell and all of the 25 bipartisan members for their leadership on this issue. 3 years ago, when we established the CTE incentive grant with $900 million in funding, I was a strong supporter of that program and thought it was critical at that time to fill the funding gap for CTE. After holding select committees throughout the state, I have been able to see the tremendous success and support of the CTE incentive grant. We've heard from countless teachers, students, and businesses and community partners about the amazing work that is being done and the results of the incentive grant program. Historically, about 70% of the population does not have a four-year college degree, and that is why it is so important for the legislature and the education community to be focused on college and career readiness for high school students. Our students are now competing in a local and global economy, and we should be doing everything possible to help them succeed. The funding for CT programs not only helps students dream of possibilities for their future, but they also create local bonds between business, labor, and government that last generations. We must ensure all Californians have the opportunity to gain the skills necessary to obtain a job that provides economic security for their families, and we must support a strong and growing middle class. I heard a great quote a couple months ago in one of my select community hearings, and it was, "If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow." Let's be innovative, let's build our economy, and let's give our students a tomorrow. I respectfully request an aye vote on AB 1743.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And also with me here today is Valerie Vucic from the Fresno County Office of Education, and then Jeremy Smith from the California State Building Trades.
Good afternoon. I'm Valerie Vucic, the Administrator for Career Tech Ed and Regional Occupational Programs at the Office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. I am a local CTIG recipient as the fiscal agent for a 17-district consortium, but I also serve as one of the Regional Technical Assistance Providers, or RTAPs as we're called, and we are in place to support districts as they grow, improve, and maintain their local CTE programs. It was expected that all K-12 districts would participate in this funding through their submission of a plan to ensure their CTE programs would work towards attaining the 11 elements of a high-quality program and to commit to their district match funding request amount. Applications were not competitive with winners and losers, and the RTAPs worked with districts to submit complete applications that qualify for funding if they were unsuccessful in their first attempt. As an RTAP, we have the opportunity to share and promote a variety of instructional strategies available to districts that includes linked learning, partnership academies, magnet schools, and ROPs, to name a few. Over the past 2 years, we've developed and expanded relationships with the CTE staff in our regions. And what makes us effective is that all of us have and continue to run CTE and ROP programs for a number of years, and we're actual practitioners who have walked the talk. According to California Education Code, each school district is charged with preparing their students for both college and career. AB 1743 would ensure that districts have the resources to do so. Our role in K-12 is to help students explore their interests and talents while providing the information about how they relate to the wide variety of career paths within industry sectors and where they can go to pursue them following high school graduation. K-12 CTE programs include the participation of industry partners, and we place thousands of students in work sites as a component of many of our ROP classes. If the funds become administered through some competitive grant process across a region and become limited to a small number of industry sectors, a lot of the work with our current industry partners will be lost, as there is no guarantee that high school programs would continue to be funded at the local level. In closing, if you desire to maintain opportunities for students and provide a comprehensive educational program while preparing all students for college and career ready, and having an impact on employment and economic development and making use of existing infrastructure, then I encourage you to pass AB 1743 as the way to support career technical education in the K-12 system on a permanent basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. We are in strong support of this legislation. We agree with what Mr. O'Donnell said, making sure that this program stays at the Department of Education. We are in strong support of it remaining there. We are on the record in supporting that in different budget subcommittees as well. And it's because the CDE handles the K-12 system. It's pretty simple. They are best positioned to figure out why there aren't more kids getting exposure to these classes, because these kids don't realize that there's a world of work out there for them that doesn't involve a traditional four-year university education. Now, to be clear, we are in support of furthering one's education after high school. We call it apprenticeship. After 3 to 5 years of an apprenticeship program, basically college for construction workers. These kids have been earning and learning while honing the skills of a craft that will follow them for their entire lives. They do this in the Joint Labor Management Apprenticeship Program at almost no cost to them. That particular subset of the state-approved apprenticeship program system in this state graduates 92% of the apprentices that come through, and is paid for by the labor movement, by the unions that participate in it. And these young men and women, like I said, are earning and learning while honing those skills, and they are earning pension credits and health care and sick time and all the things we all take for granted in jobs that aren't construction. In the meantime, there's tons of work out there. You guys are making all kinds of choices here, whether it's SB1 or the affordable housing fix. You're requiring skilled and trained workforces on certain types of public construction projects. So you are making decisions here to create so much work for construction workers that's going to be a viable career for many of these young men and women moving forward. So in closing, I'd just like to say two things. One, it's important to us that the parameters of Mr. O'Donnell's bill be in any kind of answer that comes to this issue this year. Strong, sustained funding for high-quality CTE programs with regionally based CDE staff to help these districts navigate not only getting the incentive grant, but putting it into place. So for those reasons, we're happy to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon. Alyssa Lynch, Metropolitan Education District, representing Campbell Union High School District, Eastside Union High School District, Los Gatos High School District, Milpitas Unified School District, Santa Clara Unified School District, San Jose Unified School District, in full support. Thank you.
Jerry Shelton on behalf of KROP, the Association of Career and College Readiness Organizations, in strong support.
Nancy Lacoste, representing 71 school districts as part of a career technical education consortium, and strong support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Julie Duncan, Superintendent of Tri-Valley ROP. I represent Dublin, Livermore Valley, and Pleasanton Unified School Districts in strong support.
Good afternoon. Barrett Snyder on behalf of Project Lead the Way and the California Association of Education Technology Professionals in support. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Leangela Reed on behalf of SANDABS, the San Bernardino District Advocates for Better Schools, all the governing boards and district superintendents in San Bernardino County, in strong support.
Gilly Miller, Napa County Office of Education and CTIG Technical Assistance Provider, in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Chris McKaylee on behalf of the Computing Technology Industry Association, in support.
My name is Jeff Schmidt. I'm the CT coordinator at the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and I'm the current president of the California Association for CTE, and I support this bill.
Sharon Brown for Butte County Office of Education and CTAP Region 1, full support.
Sarah Botches with CASBO, in support.
Kim Vardenega from Dunsmuir Joint Union High School District, in support.
Jamie Phillips, CASBO, in support.
Bruce Mignani on behalf of Rio Tinto Borates US Borax and Mitsubishi Cement Corporation, in support. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Chris Walker on behalf of the California Association of Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors, in support, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Marie Dela Cruz, Chief Business Officer of Metropolitan Education District, representing Campbell Union High School District, Eastside Union High School District, Los Gatos Saratoga High School District, Milpitas Unified School District, San Jose Unified School District, and Santa Clara Unified School District, in support.
Ernie Silva for the School for Integrated Academics and Technologies, in support.
Sean Lewis with the National Federation of Independent Business, representing over 20,000 small business owners, also in support.
Alyssa Stinson on behalf of the California Building Industry Association, in support.
Eric Dill, Superintendent of San Diego Union High School District, in support.
Jennifer Stahlhuber, Associate Superintendent, Vacaville Unified School District, in full support.
Molly Schlingy, University Preparatory School, in full support.
Christina Aragon with Arcadia Unified School District, full support.
Fred Jones, California Business Education Association, in support.
Nicole Rice, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, in support, and thank you both for your leadership on this issue.
Good afternoon, Derek Lennox on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District in support.
Matt Patton with the California Agricultural Teachers Association in support.
Andrea Ball on behalf of the Orange County Department of Education and also the San Jose Unified School District in support.
Pamela Gibbs representing the Los Angeles County Office of Education in strong support.
Jack Molodanoff on behalf of the California Auto Body Association, the Automotive Service Councils of California, and the California Automotive Business Coalition in support. Thank you.
Alejandro Espinosa on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson in support.
Good afternoon, Terry Giamarino, Superintendent, North Orange County ROP. I represent Anaheim Union, Fullerton Joint Union, Brea Olinda, Los Alamitos, and Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School Districts in full support.
Good afternoon, Kathy Kent, Administrator of North Orange County ROP, in full support. Thank you.
Charlie Ray, California Construction Industrial Materials Association, support.
Marianne Doyle, Director of Career Tech at the William S. Hart Union High School District, in full support. And as well, you have a letter from the Santa Clarita Career Collaborative Consortia, which is all of our employers. And so you have those signatures there as well. Thank you.
Cheryl Ryder, Executive Director for Career Development with the Placer County Office of Education, in full support.
Justin Locketts, Coordinator, CTE, Placer County Office of Education, and High School Student CTE Parent, in full support.
Alicia Priego on behalf of TechNet in strong support.
Steve Henderson, representing the California County Superintendent's Educational Services Association, in support.
Tony Bauer, Director of Career Technical Education and Regional Occupational Program, as well as being the Region 5 Regional Assistance Provider, in full support.
Hi, Linda Riggle, Glenn County Office of Education, all the districts within our county region, all full support.
Jerry Wynn, Santa Barbara County Education Office, Technical Assistance Provider, in full support.
Mary Whited, Merced County Office of Education, in full support.
Tiffany Morse, Ventura County Office of Education, representing 18 school districts in our consortium, in full support.
Pam Lopez on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Education, in support.
Kathy Hall, representing the California State PTA, in support.
Matt Back, representing the East San Gabriel Valley ROP, in strong support.
I'm Susie Hushley with Humboldt County Office of Ed and a parent. I'm in support of the bill.
Stephen Jackson, Sonoma County Office of Education, in support.
Tristan Brown, California Federation of Teachers, also members of the Get Real Coalition, in strong support.
Jennifer Brewer on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. We have a supportive amended position. We support the ongoing funding for CTE, but would just like to see some amendments made so that programs and activities such as linked learning can utilize this funding for the supportive activities that they utilize as well. Thank you.
Any witnesses in opposition? Do members of the committee have anything to add? Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't go afoul of your witness rules, but I do want to say that I'm a proud joint author of this bill. I won't state again the college and career pathway benefits because my colleagues have stated them very clearly. I will say that we have heard from numerous superintendents from county offices of education who have said that not only is renewal important, but making sure that these dollars don't get further separated from their ability to do this work, and they don't want to have any greater distance is critical. And if nothing else, I'd say support this bill, because when else has any bill united as many sectors as we just saw? Usually when... Well, thank you. Usually when the line wraps around in this chamber, it's because everyone's saying, I'm opposed. This was something that everyone can say we support. And I guess on a personal note, I've never had the Chamber of Commerce support any of my bills. So we have to support this. Thank you for your work.
Yes, I want to also thank the authors for putting together this bill, but you know, I guess my concern lies not in the bill itself, but in the whole LCFF situation, because this bill does not necessarily produce any new money. It's shifting around of the current money, and people need to understand that 98 is 98 is 98, Prop 98. And so I think in the original intent of LCFF, we had expected people to maintain the same efforts and the same programs that they had before. And unfortunately, schools did not do that because they took the CTE money that was there and put it back into the base grant and didn't necessarily feel the need to fund the CTE programs. And so I want to say that because if for some strange reason the granting process or whatever happens here doesn't work out the way it should at some point with folks after a period of time, our district still should have a commitment to CTE because the money is still there and the kids are still there and the need is still there. And so I think when we did the grant process several years ago before some of you were here, we ended up doing it because schools reneged on doing, the districts did not do CTE. Yet the money that the categorical funds that had been in CTE were basically now put back into LCFF and into the base grant. And the assumption was that they would continue it. And some schools did, and some did not. And so as a result, that we created this need that folks needed to basically do CTE, and we created this grant process to kind of help kick off the situation. But I just want people to know that the money is there and should be there in the local, in the base grant and LCFF to do CTE because it was there before the local control funding formula. And all that money's put in. So oftentimes when the governor vetoes these bills, he's vetoing them because he keeps saying over and over, I don't want categoricals to come back again because all that categorical money went back into it. So I think we have to maintain as districts a commitment to CTE because that's where our kids are, all of our kids. Some are going to college, some are doing CTE, but that's what a well-rounded district does in terms of developing comprehensive programs for all kids. And so I think we do this, but if for some strange reason stuff disappears or for some strange reason the governor doesn't sign this, we as a state and you as districts should still have a commitment to CTE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Donnell and Ms. Burke, for your work on this in building momentum around this issue. I do think that Dr. Weber's comments are well taken, but I think this has been an important effort on both sides these last couple years to bring this issue in career education back and put it front and center. And I think that your work has been really important. You've built an impressive coalition, obviously. You've engaged industry, and I've got to give a little shout out to the Placer County Office of Education, which I'm really glad is here. I've gone and seen the great work that they're doing on this front. And a stable source of funding is really, really important. Now, I can't resist the opportunity to continue my little crusade to retire the term CTE and instead just start saying career education, which I think might be a little more fitting. But notwithstanding that quibble, I am recommending an aye vote. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
If I could just close, I'm okay with the word vocational education too.
Oh.
So we can all have our term, but we are recognizing today that CTE, whatever we call it, is important. That's what this bill does. It ensures dollars set aside for this effort. It incentivizes districts. It supports students in the California economy. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Again, the motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie? Kylie, aye. Lackey? Aye. Lackey, aye. Calra? Calra, aye. McCarty? Thurmond? Thurmond, aye. Weber? Aye. Weber, aye.
Just announce
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
Just need you to announce that vote. Just announce the vote. We got how many?
6-0.
6-0. The bill is out. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move to the consent file. And before I do that, I just want to acknowledge some students that are here from my district. We have some students from Milliken. Where are they? Where are Rams out there? All right, great. I have a Ram at home. Actually, my daughter goes to Milliken. And we have some Bruins here. Where are the Wilson students? All right. I have many a neighbor who either teach there or go there today. So welcome, Bruins and Rams, to the state capitol. All right. And we're going to finish up here. We're going to call the consent calendar. Consent calendar first. We'll move to consent calendar is as follows. Item number 4, AB 1962 by Mr. Wood. The motion is passed as amended to appropriations. Item number 6, AB 2009 by Mr. Mainshine. The motion is passed to judiciary. Item number 7, AB 2031 by O'Donnell. The motion is passed to appropriations. Item number 11, AB 2228 by Mr. Wood. The motion is passed as amended to appropriations. Item number 13, AB 2285 by O'Donnell. The motion is passed to appropriations. Item 14, AB 2301 by Ms. Burke. The motion is passed to appropriations. And then item number 22, AB 3043 by Mr. Berman. The motion is passed as amended to appropriations. Please call the roll on the consent calendar.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie.
Aye.
Kylie, aye. Lackey.
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Colra.
Aye.
Colra, aye. McCarty. Thurmond.
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber.
Aye.
Weber, aye. 6-0, it's out.
6-0, the consent calendar is passed. Now we have several bills that we need to go back through because we did not have every member present when they were presented, or we did not have a quorum, so we'll go over those bills now. Okay. Okay. The consent calendar has been passed already. We're moving to bills. We'll take them in sign in order. So item number 2, I need the motion. Item number 2, AB 1747 by Mr. Rodriguez. We need a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion is.
Okay, the motion is due pass with amendments to appropriations.
Please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie.
Aye.
Kylie, aye. Lackey.
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Colra.
Aye.
Colra, aye. McCarty. Thurmond.
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber.
Aye.
Weber, aye. It's out. 6-0.
6-0, that is out. We'll now move to file item number 3, AB 1861 by Mr. Rodriguez. The motion is
Due pass to appropriations.
due pass to appropriations. Please call the roll. Oh, we need a motion.
So,
It's been moved
second.
by Mr. Colra and second by Dr. Weber. So it's file item number 3.
Due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie.
Aye.
Kylie, aye. Lackey.
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Colra.
Aye.
Colra, aye. McCarty. Thurmond.
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber.
Aye.
Weber, aye. 6-0. It's out.
Okay, 6-0, the bill is out. Now we'll move to file item 18. And it's AB 2772 by Mr. Medina. The motion on file item 18 is
Due pass with amendments to appropriations.
due pass with amendments to appropriations. That has been moved by Mr. Thurman, seconded by Dr. Weber. Please call the roll. The motion
This-
again is due pass.
The number, the file number?
Oh, the
18.
motion is
Due pass with amendments to appropriations.
right. And that's file item number 18 again. 18.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie.
No.
Kylie, no. Lackey.
No.
Lackey, no. Colra.
Aye.
Colra, aye. McCarty. Thurmond.
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber.
Aye.
Weber, aye. It is a 4-2. It's out.
I'm sorry.
4-2. 4
Okay.
to 2.
4-2. The bill is out. That's file item 18.
Yeah, yeah.
On file item 18, your vote is changed. Okay, we'll now move to file item 19. Hold on a motion there.
Let's see. I'm on a 28.
All right. So is there a motion there?
Which one was this?
Sorry.
This is Randy's bill. I move the bill.
It's been moved. I don't hear a second on that. It's been moved and seconded. The motion is due pass to appropriations. The recommendation is no. That's on file item 19.
O'Donnell?
No.
O'Donnell, no. Kylie?
Aye.
Kylie, aye. Lackey?
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Cholera? Cholera not voting. McCarty? Thurman? Thurman not voting. Weber?
Not voting.
Weber not voting.
Can the committee please grant reconsideration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll change my vote from no to not voting.
For reconsideration, good. I haven't had a chance to talk to them.
Okay, now we'll go to,
Considerations granted. Okay.
that bill fails.
Okay.
That bill failed?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, that bill did fail. Did not have enough votes. Now we'll move to file item number 21 by Mr. Santiago, AB 3042. And the motion on that is
Do pass with amendments to appropriations.
do pass with amendments to appropriations, file item number 21. Do we have a motion? Mr. Thurman,
Second.
second by Dr. Weber. Please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Kylie?
No.
Kylie, no. Lackey?
No.
Lackey, no. Cholera? Aye. Cholera, aye. McCarty? Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye. It's out 4-2.
Okay. And we had a quorum during our committee bill, so now we just got to hold the roll open.
I was looking for something. Gallagher's bill.
He's not going to come back and vote?
Anybody that wants to add on?
Oh, I still have some add-ons, I guess. Voepel, I think I still have to do that one. Or not Voepel, Gallagher's bill. I wasn't here
This Education Committee meeting is adjourned.
and adjourned till we